Hello and welcome to the School of Photography. My name is Peter Gatt, and I'll be demonstrating today how to convert your images into black and white while keeping one or more elements in your photograph in color. Now I'll be working with Photoshop Elements 2020. Now if you have an older version of Photoshop Elements, it's going to work very much the same way. Some of the main differences between some of the older versions and the current one is down here in the bottom I have an option bar. On some of the older ones the option bar was on top. Otherwise it works pretty much the same way. Now what we're going to do is first decide what we want to keep in color and what we want to change to black and white. So here on the left hand side we have our selection box. We have a whole bunch of different selection tools. The bottom right corner I have the magic wand. If you don't see this exact symbol, come down or on top to your option bar and you'll see that there are more than one option for this particular location. So I'm going to click the middle left option, and that's the magic wand. And beside that I have four other options for selection. I have new selection, add to selection, subtract from selection, and then intersect with selection. I want, for this particular example, I want the add to selection option. Beside that we have our tolerance. Now the default tolerance is 32. For this particular image I'm going to raise it to 50. You can move the slider or just click on the number itself and type in 50. And what this does is when I click on a pixel, how many neighboring pixels that are 50 shades lighter or darker than the pixel I selected will also be included. So when I click here on the petals, since they're all pretty much the same color, the whole flower is in fact selected. Now there's a little spot here that is a different tolerance, a different contrast, so it's not quite selected. So I'm going to click there again and add it to that selection. And the center is still too contrasty, so I was not able to select. So instead of keep on selecting, I'm going to go over to the lasso tool. So in the toolbox again at the bottom left. And once again there are more than one option. So I have the top left one, the original lasso tool, and again keep it on add to selection. Now instead of a tolerance you have something called a feather. We're not going to use the feather just yet, so leave it at 0. And then I'm going to loosely select around the center area. It doesn't have to be very good, just around the area. And now we have the entire head of the flower selected. Now a couple of things. First of all, I don't want the flower to be in black and white. I want the background. So I need to switch it to the background. But before I do that, I don't want it to look like cut and paste. So I want to put a slight feather on the entire outside of the selection, what we call the marching ants, so that it is a smoother look when I convert it to black and white. So we do so by going up to select. On the pull down menu go to feather, and depending upon how many pixels are in your pixel dimension of your image, how much of a feather radius you may want. So in this particular case I don't have a lot of pixel radius. I'm just going to go with 2. You can go generally between 2 and 5. So I'm going to click OK. And now it just softens the edge, so when I go ahead and do the black and white, it's not going to jump out as a cut and paste looking image. So now I'm going to go back to my select, and then there's an option called invert. Click on invert, and now the marching ants is on the outer perimeter of my image, showing this is the area that will be affected, not the actual flower itself. So now there's a couple of different ways I can make the background black and white. The easiest way is simply going to enhance, adjust color, and then the third option is remove color. And now we have a black and white background. And if I go select, deselect, or Control D for the Mac, Control D for Windows, Command D for the Mac, then the background or the marching ants are now gone. The background is in black and white, and the edges are slightly soft just to get away from that cut and paste look. Now if I go to the Control or Command Z, I can bring back the marching ants. Control Command Z again, I can bring back the color. And another way of doing this to convert to black and white with a few options is go back to the pull down menu of Enhance, and then there's an option here to convert to black and white. Now here, convert to black and white, we have different styles. We have an infrared effect, we have newspaper effect, portrait, scenic landscape, urban snapshot, and then the vivid landscape. You can choose which one you like. And you'll notice on the right hand side, as I make different selections, the sliders move. Now, you actually can move these sliders yourself, but don't do that. If you grab the green slider and you pull it over, it just makes the whole thing green or black instead of darker. It doesn't work quite all that well, so I wouldn't use it. But just click on these presets and you'll see it does a fairly decent job. I'm going to hit cancel here. And the third option is go back to Enhance, go back to Adjust Color, and Adjust Hue and Saturation. So now I can take the saturation slider, pull it all the way to the left, and again it is black and white. Now this looks very much the same as the first one I did, where I just removed color. But here I don't have to go -100. I can bring it back a bit to about a -80. And then we have a little bit of the green coming in, a little bit more of a subdued look to the image. If I want a little bit more pronounced, come back to -70. And then you can see here more of the green. Click OK. Command D for deselect. And then there you have a very subdued color image with the bright yellow. So that's a very easy way of making a selection and then making the background black and white or subdued. If you have more than one area, keep it on Add to Selection and add the other element you want to include. Now I'm going to show you one other way of doing this, but instead of using a selection tool, we're going to do something a little bit different. So here we have a bit more complicated of subject. However, the background is simple. The background is blue. And I want to make the background black and white, but leave the bride and groom in color. So in this case here, I'm not going to make a selection. Instead, I'm just going to go to Enhance, pull down menu, go to Adjust Color, and once again, Adjust Hue and Saturation. Now last time I took the saturation slider all the way to the left and made the entire image black and white, which is not what I want this time. This time, instead of making everything black and white, or the area that was previously selected, I'm going to go up to the master pull down option here and then choose blue. Now down here in the bottom, you'll notice that the top color bar and the bottom color bar are the same, but now we have these little markers. So these markers indicate blue, and all the blue in this photograph will be affected, and colors that have blue in it, like cyan and magenta. So in this case, the background is blue and some cyan, so it should be just what I want. So now when I grab the saturation slider and pull this to the left, just the background has been removed in color. Now you notice it didn't do a fantastic job because this background is probably more on the cyan side than blue, but that's okay. Over here above the two color bars, we have 3 eyedroppers. So the eyedroppers allowed you, just like before, pick a color, add to the sample, or subtract from the sample. So I'm going to add to the sample. Now take note of where this little marker is, and when I come down here and click on the background is now black and white, and the marker has jumped over to this other side because it included all of the cyan and a little bit of the green into the color selection. So now I have what appears to be a black and white image with just the bride and groom in color. Okay, any questions or concerns, you can always email me at learn@schoolofphotography.ca. For more classes or in-person workshops, visit schoolofphotography.ca. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed it. See you next time.